Every young man has a pastime he enjoys, and one young man enjoyed going fishing. On day, his uncle tagged along, making it a dual effort, and it seemed like any other day. However, this young man soon discovered something that he could never forget. Even his uncle still remembers the excited sounds from his nephew when he started reeling in what they thought was a big one. The fishing rod bent, so they knew there was something big at the other end of the line. With anticipation, they both started reeling in this big catch. Little did they know what they were going to find. Neither one was ready for what they saw coming their way from the water. A leathery, soggy shape quickly emerged from the water just a few seconds later. People passing by noticed that this wasn't a gigantic fish at all. Brody Brooks was only 11 years old and had been very excited to go fishing with the other men in his family. He had gotten a new fishing rod for a recent birthday, so he was thrilled about the fishing trip awaiting him. Nobody expected that this trip to fish on the lake was going to be anything other than ordinary. Everyone was ready to relax and catch some fish. Instead, they discovered an old purse that was still intact and had plenty of things inside. The group chose Lake Hartwell, which is in South Carolina's Anderson County. Their goal was just to catch some amazingly long fish. Armed with a boat, they set everything up and hit the lake. It turned out to be the most beautiful day. Social banter is often included when you're on the lake with the boys. This lasted up until the first catch of the day. However, by day's end, they'd be calling the authorities because of what they caught. What could have happened? Learning to fish? Ben Myers was with Brody throughout the morning. He was showing the young man what to do and how to fish, such as casting out and baiting the rod. Of course, he didn't think Brody was going to catch very much his first time. An amazing discovery. Therefore, you can easily imagine the shock on Ben's face when Brody yelled that he had caught something and it was tugging hard on the line. However, his excitement became worry when he saw what had been caught by his young nephew. Brody was so sure it was a huge fish on the line since it was bobbing consistently up and down. He says of the day that he remembers it well. He'd gotten an ugly stick for his birthday and worried that the rod might break with all the pulling. Fearful that his line was going to snap, Brody finally pulled up something that resembled a bag from the water's depth. He quickly unzipped the purse and was shocked to see what was inside. The secret within. As he touched the purse, he knew it had to be extremely old. He couldn't tell how long the bag had been down in the water at first. However, a hidden item in the bag helped him deduce how long it had been since this bag was used. Overall good condition. Although it was full of mud and a little faded, the purse was actually in decent condition. When they opened it, the men found valuables inside. They couldn't easily determine what they were, but one caught Uncle Ben's eye immediately. Of course, Brody was initially bummed that he didn't catch a great fish, but he soon overcame that feeling when he realized he had found something special. He had been fully convinced it was a fish though, because the rod bobbed up and down. Still, he had worried that the rod might snap. The contents within the purse surprised every man on the boat. It had old and dated photographs inside. While there were faces staring at them from the photos, no one knew who those people were or whose purse it could be. Everyone was sifting through the contents inside, so the goal quickly switched from what was there to who had owned the purse. Among the items were lipsticks, money, credit cards, a planner, and keys. Clearly, the owner wanted to keep everything she might need with her. First time for everything. Later, Ben said in an interview that they sometimes catch cans or other rubbish in the lake at times. However, he had never before caught a woman's purse. He had been fishing that lake from boyhood, so he was surprised his nephew had found something so prominent. As they dumped out the bag onto the shore, everyone started searching through the items. Soon, Ben realized something very important. He was staring at a photograph and knew one of the people. Could it be the owner of the purse? Was it fate or just a coincidence? Racking his brains, Ben recognized the photograph woman from his childhood, though he couldn't altogether place her right then. After a few moments of thought, he had that aha moment. He finally realized that he had gone to school with one of her nephews a while before. No wonder it took so long to place the face. He hadn't seen her in over 10 years. Astounded that they had found the purse at all, he was shocked that he actually knew the purse's owner. After the initial shock of realizing he knew the person, he joked that it was an odd feeling to find a bag from a long-lost friend. Excellent shape. Remember, all the items were in the water, so it's hard to imagine that they were all intact from 30 feet of muddy water. It was lucky the purse was closed and made of quality leather, though, because it helped place the owner. At first inspection, Ben saw 2 tubes of lipstick, stored cards, and a comb. The bag's discovery raised many questions, of course. What happened to the bag? How long was it down in the lake? However, the most important question was why it was there at all. Ben wondered about this and started to worry about the owner. Regardless of the cosmetics and other things inside, the bag held many photos of different people. They all seemed to be older photos. Everyone was surprised that they were so well preserved since they had been underwater for quite a while. We can't be sure yet. Right then, it wasn't possible to determine who the owner was without opening the purse more to get to the other secrets. Items like a driving permit showed a possible name and the state in which she lived. The men also discovered the school she had attended. A familiar face stared back. Some of the photographs were quite damaged, so Ben and Brody were extra careful to separate them from the others. All of the photos were laid on the shore to dry so that they could be inspected. One picture, though, caught their eye immediately. Once they saw that familiar face in one of the photos, the men knew they had to report this missing bag to the authorities. They hoped they could track down the owner. Ben immediately pulled out his cell phone and called the local police. Brody actually said that the woman looked a little familiar, which spurred Ben's memory to remember who she was. When he talked to a local news channel, he said that she was a family friend who had actually gone to school with one of her nephews. Still, that had been 10 years ago. All of the men who made the discovery wondered how the purse got into the lake and how long it had been underwater. Ben worried that it could be evidence of foul play, and that it was part of some criminal act. The last thing Ben wanted was to destroy evidence, so he warned the others to stop touching things. Following the call to the police, Ben tried to look on social media to find the woman's relatives. His search finally came back to her nephew. When told, this man was also stunned that his aunt's purse had finally been recovered after it had been lost many years ago. Tracking down the woman from the picture. Could it be true? This gentleman reached out to his aunt immediately. She was so shocked to get the call and actually thought someone was pranking her. In fact, she wanted to hang up, but she realized that it wasn't April Fool's Day and was intrigued, to say the least. It turned out that the purse belonged to April Bolt, a 49-year-old woman. She was amazed to be reunited with her bag. When she spoke to reporters, she said that she had been at a loss for words and was shocked. She never thought she would see that bag again. As it happened, April lost her purse back in 1992. This bag had been sitting underwater for almost 30 years. Everyone was surprised at how good the purse looked. Of course, the real amazing thing was that the papers inside lasted so long. Since the purse was sealed shut when it was lost, many of the contents remained intact through all those years. This included her hair comb and some of the photos. Even though they spent over 25 years in the lake, they were still recognizable. April believed that the purse was lost under odd circumstances. Brody and Ben were initially shocked to learn that she didn't accidentally drop it in the water. They really thought it just went overboard while she was out on the lake, but her recollection is different. The story of that day. Back in 1992, during the summer, April went to a cookout at the lake. She said they had been on a boat because her parents owned a nearby condo unit. Therefore, they spent that day grilling with the boat parked along the shore. The story of that day. Where's my purse? April realized that the bag was gone at some point and assumed that the 2 nearby guys fishing had taken it when she wasn't looking. This was a logical explanation for her because it seemed that the bag just disappeared. At the time, she was devastated. She cried even though she knew there wasn't much money in her bag. Clearly, she was someone who lived from the bag, as you could see from all the things inside. Now she had to replace her cards and everything, which was highly stressful. Devastation set in. The most valuable things. Of course, April was more upset about losing something immaterial. There was something in her purse that no amount of money could buy. What had been so important to her for her to cry and lament over her lost purse? Among those items recovered were some photos of her son as a baby. While they can be digitized now, they couldn't back then. Sometimes you only had one picture of a loved one, so it held sentimental value for April. You're probably wondering why the bag was tossed into the lake in the first place. Was it stolen those many years ago? No one knows for sure, but the money was still there in all the cards, so it was unlikely to be foul play. Though happy to reunite April with her purse and contents, Brody was still disappointed that his first catch wasn't a big fish. Not the catch he wanted. April and her son have a new memory. April still remains intrigued by the purse and its journey back to her. She doesn't wonder why Ben and Brody returned it, but why the universe wanted the purse to find its way home. Water is said to have memory, and it wanted her to have hers back.